Gary the Vortigaunt in Half-Life Alyx leaves behind a series of murals and drawings for the player to find in and around his hideout. But there was supposed to be more that you could find. If you load up the map for his home, A2 Hideout, in Hammer, you will find outside of the player's site unplaced overlays for an unused writing texture. When looking at this cut texture, some interesting statements can be found. Gary was originally going to be far more aware of Alyx Vance and her history. He was also going to be aware of what was in the vault, saying, "The weapon will enslave us all." Another notable statement acknowledges Alyx's mom, saying, "Asian Vance and her sacrifice." In Half-Life Alyx, Alyx keeps a pet snark in a jar in her hideout. While you can interact with it by feeding it through the top of the jar or tapping on the glass, there are numerous more animations made for it that weren't used, some with sound effects too. Based on the names and types of animations, not only was the snark meant to appear elsewhere, it was intended to be in a far freer set of circumstances. A slew of these animations suggest one was to appear in Russell's lab. Other animations like these jumping, walking, and turning suggest it was to have a bit more freedom of movement. A death animation is named, but it has no actions. Finally, the snark was at one point meant to be directly interactable by the player, with an animation for being in the player's hand, and being squeezed by the player's hand. In Dr. Kleiner's lab, in order to ensure Alyx's teleport goes smoothly, you, the player, will have to re-plug in this plug and flip a switch. Barney will have a couple of comments to Gordon afterwards on it.
Good job, Gordon. Throwing that switch and all. I can see your MIT education really pays for itself.
All right, Barney.
He was originally supposed to get 2 extra lines here, as seen in the beta files. Here's the full sequence of lines.
Good job, Gordon. Throwing that switch and all. I can see your MIT education really pays for itself. And your work with the extension cord. Man, beautiful stuff.
In Half-Life 2 Episode 2, you'll come across a radio station, where, after some time, you'll have a video call with Dr. Magnuson, who is at White Force Base. An advisor will briefly interrupt it before the call ends. The call is real-time, meaning that Dr. Magnuson and White Force Base physically exist, though they are outside the player's space. The area he is in is a lower detailed version of the lounge from later in the game, where the Borealis is introduced, and Eli and Alyx speak with the player. Similarly, despite the incredibly brief appearance, the advisor is also real-time. Barely seen in the call, the advisor is actually located in a house. The house has windows of different sizes, a door, and even supporting beams. In both source engines, one of the most resource-intensive components of an NPC is its eyes. This is because the eyes move independently from the body and have more intense reflections, despite being so small. As such, more distant NPCs will lack eyes outright. This can be seen in the first map of Half-Life Alyx, where all the human NPCs below Alyx's building will be eyeless. These models are special, lower poly versions of the citizen models seen elsewhere. In Half-Life 2, an entire separate citizen model called the Cheeple was created. The Cheeple can most prominently be seen in Black Mesa East, walking around in the background tunnels. On the Halo 3 multiplayer map Snowbound, there is a small side tunnel branching off from the larger Forerunner structure. Inside is an invisibility power-up. Underneath that, and embedded in the ice, is a Canadian $1 coin. This is a reference to the Lucky Loonie. Loonie being the name of the $1 coin, while the luck comes from burying it at center ice for major hockey competitions hosted in Canada. Usually the Olympics, as that's where the tradition comes from. On the Counter-Strike Source version of Assault, there is a secret room. At CT spawn, if you no-clip below the left side stairs, you will find it. Inside is a lone, physics-enabled boot. At the end of Portal 2, you'll briefly go to the moon. This whole cutscene is actually upside down. Despite shooting the portal into the sky, the moon you go to is right under the floor below Wheatley. The portal used to get there already has a cutout for it in the moon's surface. In fact, the elevator to Wheatley's lair also cuts through the upside down moon, but is hidden during the cutscene. No clipping is the only way to see all of this, but you won't be able to land on anything when you get there. Originally in Left 4 Dead, No Mercy was intended to have outro dialogue for the helicopter pilot. However, this was cut, though the files remain. Here's what the helicopter pilot would have said.
Now you understand why I told you to prepare? I swear, those things can sense hope. And when they do, they have to destroy it. I'm guessing there aren't any actual doctors in your group, are there? Just tried a street pickup. I should know better. I think I got hit. I'll be okay. Not feeling so well. Can you grab me a first aid kit? Saw you get hit. Are you immune? Hope I'm immune. I am getting really cold. I'm getting really cold. I